The WSL January transfer window has been very quiet, but not on Merseyside. With 4 deals completed already, Everton look to be winning the transfer window. We analyse their additions, how they will impact the Toffees, and whether they can climb the WSL table as a result. Make sure to comment your thoughts on their business. This is how Everton are winning the transfer window. Alright, let's get into this then. Today we're going to be analysing Everton's transfer business from this window so far, and what sort of conversations it puts them in, because they've been in that relegation conversation, Harry, but based on their business so far, where do you place them now?
I think they could be in a really good position. I love it when teams realise the situation they're in and they, as soon as they can, they go and make transfers. It hit the 1st of January and bang, Kelly Gago was actually confirmed before the transfer window started, but 1st of Jan, Gago's an Everton player. That was brilliant from Everton.
Yeah.
We've been going on for weeks and weeks about how they struggle in front of goal, and they address that issue almost immediately. And that is the perfect way to start a window. And then from there, they have just made better signing after better signing. They've brought in 4 top quality players that can really help the current ability of the squad. I think they could be in for a really good second half of the season, because credit to them, they've got in early and they've got their main business done. And that is absolutely crucial.
Shame they didn't play any FA Cup action. Could have been nice to see these new signings bed in with some FA Cup games. Let's start by talking about Kelly Gago then. The big marquee signing really of the window. It's quite apparent to anyone that's watched Everton this season that a striker in January was a necessity. They've not been prolific in front of goal by any means. Katia Snows has 1 goal this season. That came from a very dubious penalty decision. And so it was quite clear Everton needed a striker. Now, I think Kelly Gago is a really interesting fit, because I think the most successful performance this season for Everton was that game against Manchester City, where they were able to really effectively counter-attack. Now, Kelly Gago's not going to give you that. But what she can give you is someone that can hold up the ball very effectively. She's a big presence up there. So I think it's quite an interesting signing. If we look at her FBref profile then, which takes her numbers per 90 and ranks them against other top forwards, you can see that she ranks very high for aerials, once in the 87th percentile of all players in the women's top 9 competition. So you can see there about 3.07 aerials won per 90. Now obviously that implies that FC Nantes, her former club, like to lump the ball up to her, but I think that's something Everton can definitely rely upon, is that size, that ability to win the ball in the air. She also ranked quite highly for progressive carries, which is quite interesting for a striker. It means she's going to get that ball forward. It means she will drop deep and then carry that ball forward. So we'll be interested to see how Everton utilise that. But ball progression has been a problem for Everton this season. And when they've not played just directly transitional, they've not really had a way through. So potentially Kelly Gago dropping deeper to receive the ball than carrying that ball forward could be a really useful element to add to this Everton side.
Yeah, I think she solves quite a few problems for Everton. One of the main problems they've seen, and we've seen it in a few games this season, is that they've struggled so much defensively, because when you are a defensive side and you're only getting the ball, as far as the edge of your box, as far as the halfway line, you just get put under so much pressure, you will end up conceding at some point. Chelsea game's the best example of that. Everton just could never get the ball out of their own half. Chelsea just kept coming at them and scored a few goals. It happened a couple of times. For Everton with Gago, is that not only does she give you the option to, it's that hold-up play that gives you the option to just keep the ball. Because if they do smash it long and they do find Gago, it just gives an opportunity to retain the ball and take some pressure off yourselves. And that could be absolutely crucial. And then with that progression, once she's held that ball up, she can either wait for the team to get up, or she'll happily take it on herself. And if she can do those things, it's going to be massive for Everton, because not only will it progress them up the pitch so they've got a better chance of scoring more goals, but it's also going to help them out defensively, because she will take the pressure off. If they can get the ball to her and she can hold it up, she can win it in the air, it's just going to take that pressure off the back line a little bit. Then we'll start to see them concede less goals, and it all just keeps tumbling over and ends up being knocking onto each other. So I think it's a sign that can help them in more ways than one. And I mean, set pieces, a great weapon. If you put a good ball into the box, if you have a good corner taker, you've got a player to aim for, a player that could win the header 9 times out of 10, and you could score a lot of goals from.
Yeah, in terms of goals though, I think there is a question mark around Kelly Gago's prowess in front of goal. Only 0.23 goals per 90, or non-pen goals per 90 this season for Kelly Gago. It ranks in just the 15th percentile, which is really low. It does imply she's going to be more of a hold-up forward that brings other players into the game. Obviously, we'd expect those numbers to go up with higher quality teammates around her. I think that Everton are a stronger side overall than FC Nantes are, and her XG is a little higher than that. So she's getting into the right positions, perhaps not taking those opportunities as much as she should be. Shots on target and shots numbers aren't too bad though. 2.61 shots per 90, and of those 1.36 are shots on target. So she's quite good at getting a shot away, but the problem is it's not going in the back of the net. And again, potentially you say, well, FC Nantes are lower quality, so it's going to be more difficult for them to get her into good areas to score. That may be different at Everton, where you've got better quality players around her. Assists, though, only at 0.11, so again, there's question marks around will she be able to hold that ball up and bring others into the game, but again, you can question the quality of the teammates. Shot creating actions, though, 2.61 per 90, 59th percentile, quite a nice attribute there. She's, as I say, I think she's very good at getting shots away. The question mark is, can she start to score goals? Can she be consistent for Everton? Because that's what they've lacked this season, is any sort of consistency. Players have had flashes of brilliance. I think the only player that I've seen have a consistently good performances is probably Hanoko Hayashi. Other than that, it's been a lot of up and down performances. I thought Tony Payne was fairly non-existent for most of the first part of the season, but then against Manchester City, she really came alive. And again, a slightly different position, so that could explain it. But yeah, Everton have got to start to get a bit more consistency out of their players.
Yeah, very much so. And whether that is Gago scoring, relying on her to score and she puts some good form together, or whether she comes in, as you say, allows other players to get on the ball and to get their press. Because if she can hold it up, and then you've got the likes of Payne running onto it, if she can let it off to Hayashi and just let Hayashi shoot, then Hayashi might just keep up this incredible goal scoring season she's having. Well, I say she's scored a couple of goals, but for a defensive midfielder, that's brilliant. And also,
she's on 2 or 3 now. She's Everton's top goal scorer.
She's having a great time, and she won the penalty against Liverpool. Superb season for Hayashi. Then we'll talk about another signing in a minute, which I think can massively help them in front of goal. They've got players that if Gago can, even if she's not that striker who comes in and scores all the goals herself, if she can play well enough and do her job, which will allow other attacking players to get involved and to play better, then it's going to help the whole team.
Yeah. And let's move on then to the next most high-profile signing, which is, of course, Hayley Ladd, joining from Manchester United. Now, her FBref profile doesn't really exist. There isn't much data on her at the moment because she's not played at all. 11 minutes, I think, in the league for Manchester United this season. However, I think the most important thing with Hayley Ladd is that WSL experience. Over 9,500 WSL minutes, which is absolutely absurd, pushing on 9,600, which you will likely get if she plays at all for Everton this season, which you would expect her to. But yeah, she's been a real stalwart of the game. She's 31 now, been competing at the top level for a good 8-9 years. It's been a very experienced player is Hayley Ladd, and I think she'll come in and offer exactly that, guidance to those younger players. I think that she'll be able to add a lot of steel to that midfield. I think it's a really nice signing.
Yeah, very much so. As you say, that leadership characteristic that Ladd brings, just a calm head, which, again, I think when we talk about Everton defensively, if we forget about the Man City game, in other games this season, when they've gone a goal behind, there's been a little bit of a collapse, and there's been a little bit of just losing their way, and obviously then after that you lose the performance. With Ladd in there, it's just a cool head, a very good leader, a player who's been there and done everything, and she knows it. I think Ladd's one of those where she has played at the top level, but in terms of she's played obviously at the top level for ages, but we're talking about the top teams in that level. Manchester United for the last couple of years. That's she's won the FA Cup, part of the squad that won the FA Cup last season. She's still a very good player in her own right, but I think it's her on and off the pitch stuff that makes her such a complete signing. In terms of she's not a flashy, incredible player, but she's a decent player who has a lot of mental attributes that could massively help this team.
Yeah, obviously she was at Bristol City for a couple of seasons before that, joined Manchester United when they came up to the WSL. But I was surprised to find that she's not won all that much. I mean, to be fair, Manchester United haven't won all that much. But yeah, I was surprised to find that. But yeah, very experienced footballer. Again, she will be that defensive midfielder. It'll be interesting to see how they structure that midfield because you would expect that Hanoko Hayashi will start, but will continue to start. But will that be in a slightly higher role with Ladd coming into the base of the midfield? It's going to be really interesting to see how they structure that. and whether they continue with their current shape, because they've been playing a 5-2-3 or a 5-4-1 out of possession, and I'm just intrigued to see how that's going to line up, especially with the addition of Emma Watson. And let's talk Emma Watson then. Don't have any graphics for her because there is no data on her because she's not played much. But a very exciting young player has come through the youth ranks at Manchester United and has now joined Everton on loan. Should be a helpful loan signing.
Yeah, very much so. I think it makes sense for all parties. It's a very good opportunity for Watson to get some consistent WSL minutes and show that she, get used to playing at this level. We saw her score, I believe it was in the Subway Cup, in the group stage for Manchester United, which was great to see. And she has made some cameos for Man United so far at the start of this season, but for her to get a good consistent half a season out on loan at a lower WSL club is great for her. And for Everton, I think she's a player that can come in and impact their season, a player who does want to get on the ball and does want to score goals. And when we talk about Gago is the type of player that is going to let what potentially could be the reason why Watson thrives. If you've got a player who can hold up the ball, then just lay it into Emma Watson and then just let her play with it and see what she can do. It's risk free for Everton. It's a loan, so if she doesn't work out, if she's not quite at the level yet, then she'll go back to Man United at the end of the season, and Everton will forget about it. But I don't think that'll be the case. I think she's a very talented player, and with consistent minutes under her belt, she could really develop into a top midfielder.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's one where Everton look at it as a potential permanent at the end of the season. I think if she looks at her development path at Manchester United, you've got Grace Clinton ahead of her, Ella Toone ahead of her. There's no room there. They can't even fit Toone in at the moment, let alone fitting in Emma Watson for minutes. So I wouldn't be surprised if she does have a good spell at Everton and then looks at that as a permanent. I wouldn't be surprised if she had a good spell at Everton and then someone else looked at her for a permanent, but definitely someone who I think has a point to prove. She's already 21, I want to say, so I think it's quite important this loan move goes well for her. But yeah, as you said, I think that Gago Watson link up sort of harks back to the old Premier League days of having a little and large combo up front. It could be very Crouch Defoe, so it will be interesting to see how that sort of works. But I think that could be a very useful partnership. And the other loan move, talk about Martina Fernandez coming in from Barcelona. Not someone I know a whole host about, and someone we'll get to know as she joins the WSL, but a useful defensive option for Everton. I think they've been a little bit light in the back line, and it has allowed them to loan out 17-year-old Izzy Hobson. Is that the right call, though? Because Hobson's played quite well. Is it the right call to loan someone in to then be able to loan Izzy Hobson out, or could they have just given Izzy Hobson the WSL minutes?
I think Izzy Hobson's done very well, but at only 17, I think asking and relying on her to play another 6 months at the WSL level, I don't know. I understand why they want to loan her out. Sheffield United, I think it's okay. I'm intrigued to see what they can do. They haven't had an incredible start to the season, but they have brought in a couple of players on loan in January,
so from the WSL.
Maybe they will fly up the table and they will start playing really well, because, as you say, Hobson for the first half of the season has looked pretty comfortable in the top league. So I think for her to drop down to the Championship, it is interesting. But I hope for her sake and for the loan army that Sheffield United have created that they do start to rise up the table. But yeah, I think it makes sense. Hobson is still very, very young, and yes, she's done well in this Everton system, but it's not quite the system you want a player to develop in terms of it's a low block where it's very much, it's not what I'd call in terms of when defenders come through and develop, you want them to be on the ball, you want them to be enjoying the possession, and yes, Everton have tried that at times, and I think you have to give credit to them. I just think at 17 a low move is the right call. Bring in Fernandez. I'm intrigued to see how it will go. As you say, it's a player we don't know much about, but anyone.
Very versatile defensive option, apparently. But my question with Izzy Hobson is, sure, you wanted to go and get experience of playing out from the back. You're not getting that at Sheffield United. Surely you look at a loan higher up in the Championship. Now, I know that may be difficult to facilitate, but I think that would have been more beneficial. Either way, it's going to be at least half a season of Championship experience. I think that can be really important, because rather than playing sporadic minutes for Everton, she will be getting consistent first-team football, even if it is in a lower division. So I think it's a decent loan move. I don't think it's going to be one where she's thinking of a permanent. Everton should have her in their long-term plans because she looks a real fantastic talent.
Yeah.
And someone who I think they could have for a few years and then potentially sell on for a huge profit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think she's a really exciting young player and someone Everton should be really nurturing now.
Yeah. I think they'll be eyeing her up to start next season. I think that'll be the thing.
Yeah.
Just give her 6 months to go, and you know the championship is so tight that if the signings that Sheffield United have made come in and play well, they could find themselves right straight up the table, and suddenly they are one of the top teams in that division. So I think it can work out, and I think it's the right decision. Obviously, it does seem a bit strange because she's played so much for the first team, but I can see from an Everton point of view why you'd do that.
Yeah.
But as I say, going into next season, obviously Fernandes will go back to Barcelona, and then Hobson will come back.
Well, that's another one. If she plays really well, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a permanent option there because she is not going to play a whole host of Barcelona. Like, there's no player that goes out on loan to Everton that then's going to be jumping back to start for Barcelona. She's not getting minutes over Irene Paredes, Mape Leon, Ingrid Engen, especially when they're looking at Leia Alexandria as well. There's no way that Fernandes goes back and competes there unless she has a incredibly stellar 6 months at Everton, where she looks like the best defender in the league. But I don't really foresee that happening. But I think it's definitely a smart loan move. Somewhat, it's loan moves come with very little risk, a whole host of upside. If she is as good as a Barcelona academy product should be, then I think you've got a real talent there. If not, she goes back to Barcelona in 6 months and they bring Izzy Hobson back into the first team.
I think that for Everton, they've done so well. They've fixed the areas they needed a striker. They've done that. They needed a player who could cut a bit of creativity into that midfield. They've done that. They've brought in a player who brings leadership, and they've brought in a defender just to add an extra centre half in there and just to add a few more options and solidify yourself. And what I like is we rarely see teams making so many signings so early in the window.
Yeah.
But what they've done, they've gone out, they've got the signings early doors, and it means they're now ready to cut. They've been with the club for nearly 3 weeks now as we head into the WSL starting again. And I think that's absolutely crucial because they've done the business, the players have come in and gelled with the squad, and now they should be ready and raring to go for this weekend. And hopefully we will see that. I think Everton have got, I want to say Aston Villa, I think it is, but they're going to come in and hopefully they're going to hit the ground running, and we can see Everton rise up the table. We did obviously re-predicted the table on Monday.
Saturday.
So that's a big game. Yes, Aston Villa have been rolling teams over under Sean Goater, but at home, new signings. I think Sorensen and Everton would expect to win that game.
They should be favourites. Villa haven't got a manager. Sean Goater's doing a good job as an interim, but they don't have a manager.
That is true.
I think there are still some problems with that Villa squad. It's a game I think Everton should be favouring themselves for, especially with their new signings. But yeah, as you say, their recruitment's been really impressive. They've added exactly the right sort of areas in the squad that we would have picked out for improvement. I think they've nailed the window so far. So I think they can take huge pride in that and look to push on the second half of the season. It will be very interesting to see where Everton end up. Speaking of which, we both predicted them fairly high in the re-prediction video. I assume that your opinion has not changed since that went out on Monday.
Yeah, I'm sticking with it. I think they will get 6 in the league. I think they'll finish top half. I look at this window and, I think not only at the moment, I know we've just had a winter break, but on form, Everton out of that kind of section of 4 or 5 teams, Everton are on the best form, joint, kind of with Aston Villa. But and I think Everton's signings have just elevated them a couple places up in the league. So I do think they'll finish that in that 6th place.
Yeah, I put them 8th, which I think would be a really decent performance this season. And they can look to push on for next season. I still think they are a few players away from that big level. I have some doubts about Hayley Gago's ability to adapt to the league, but if she does, I think that's a really good signing. So will be very interesting to see how that all pans out for Everton. But yeah, that is everything for this video. Make sure to join us this weekend. We're going to be live for 2 streams on Sunday. In the morning, it's Tottenham versus Leicester City. And in the evening, the Manchester derby, Man City versus Manchester United. Should be a very good weekend of WSL action as we return to domestic action. Join us this weekend. Other than that, go and check out our video from Monday where we re-predicted the WSL table. You can go and watch that. That'll be on screen now. But thank you guys very, very much for watching today. Thank you, Harry, for pointing. Thank you guys very much for watching today. And we'll see you next time.
See ya.